Hey, good Monday morning, everybody. BAM Weather Meteorologist Brett Waltz here, giving you a long-range forecast update, guys. I hope you all had a fantastic weekend. Starting out this video today, we're going to chat about heavy rainfall potential associated with some tropical moisture coming up from the Gulf, combining with a front across parts of the Ohio Valley, some key rains for drought-stricken areas, and then behind this front, a couple of colder days, some frost and freeze potential for parts of the Midwest, into the Great Lakes and the Northeast. And then as we go throughout this video, following another big warm-up, we'll talk about what could potentially be a more widespread, a stronger fall front as we work towards about the 18th or the 19th of the month. But let's start out this morning with the current radar. You can see here's the front. You can see it extending all the way from the upper peninsula of Michigan down through northern parts of Texas. And then we have this tropical moisture here coming up from the Gulf, not associated with any kind of a system or anything, but just some moisture that's being transported out of the Gulf and upwards towards the Tennessee and the Ohio Valley. Really good news for these folks down here that are dealing with severe drought conditions in spots, able to put some rain down. And it also is not necessarily going to be, rain for 5-6 days. There's going to be another dry stretch coming, so should still be somewhat favorable, at least to get out into the fields and get some harvesting done, even amid the rain in the short term. This front will continue to push further down to the south, and as these two pieces of energy start to combine, you're looking at some heavy rainfall potential, especially as we work into tonight and into tomorrow along the Ohio River and into southern Indiana and Kentucky. Taking a look at those temperatures associated with the cold front, and then we'll get more into the precipitation forecast here, guys. You can see pretty chilly as we work into tomorrow morning across the northern plains. It has maybe trended a tick warmer than the initial forecast a couple of days ago, but still looking at a freeze across northern Minnesota, Wisconsin, into the upper peninsula, maybe northern parts of Michigan. As we work into Thursday, guys, we could be looking at some frost potential in outlying areas in northern Indiana, into Ohio, more widespread across parts of Michigan and into the northeastern part of the United States. But you can see we quickly will warm things back up to above normal. In fact, more record-breaking warm lows into the central U.S. by the weekend. You can see widespread 80s returning out there, but staying a little bit more seasonable to even slightly cooler in parts of the eastern ag belt, but right back into the 80s for the central plains and even into parts of the Midwest. In terms of those rainfall totals, let's take a look at this over the next 7 days. Most of this coming again the next 2 days, guys. You can see very messy in nature across Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, northern Illinois. Will be some spots that get skipped out. Still, some of these areas are in the drought conditions across parts of Missouri, central Illinois, and into northern Indiana, no doubt about that. But beneficial rains along the Ohio River in southern Indiana, Kentucky, southern Ohio, certainly down towards Memphis and into western parts of Tennessee, cashing in on some heavier rains in here. You click around 2-3 inches plus of rain possible across this region as we work into tonight and especially into tomorrow. In terms of the frost potential and the freeze potential as we work into Thursday and Friday, here's a more zoomed in look at the northeastern part of the United States. If you're shaded in blue, that's where the frost potential is more likely. Again, I do think it's patchier across Indiana and Ohio, but certainly still a threat across northern Indiana, northern Ohio, central Ohio. If you're north of the turquoise dash line here, that is where the freeze potential is going to be more likely. Again, Thursday and Friday of this week. In terms of tropical activity ahead, guys, there's been chatter about another tropical system to keep an eye on. Right now, in our opinion, while we do think a hurricane can likely develop over the next couple of days, it's very likely that this storm stays out to sea. As it approaches the Caribbean, it will start to turn north. That's been the storm track all year long. I don't see any differences right now in that. Not expecting coastal impacts. There will be a low pressure system that works up the coast around this time frame as well, but not expecting it to be tropical in nature. It's more of a traditional mid-latitude cyclone. Now, with all that in mind, with the front ahead, the tropical activity, let's go through the temperature outlook over the next several days and into next week. And what you will notice is following the cold front in the short term in the eastern third of the United States, much above normal temperatures returning very quickly across the central U.S. It will take some time to bleed east, but you can certainly see as we work into next week, above normal to much above normal temperatures returning across the eastern half of the country, especially across the central plains and into the Ohio Valley. Now, out ahead of a weak cold front between the 13th and the 15th, the warmth will likely linger to the east. What I will keep an eye on as we get into the extended range is another front in here that we need to watch around the 17th, 18th, 19th of the month. I'm going to talk in a little bit more detail on that here in a moment. But before then, between, late this weekend and the 17th to the 19th, so a solid 7 days in here, pattern will be once again much warmer than normal for a good portion of the central to eastern United States. In terms of the precipitation out ahead of that next front and after this upcoming one, you can see between the 8th and the 15th of the month, much drier than normal conditions returning across the south central part of the country. Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky. And so, again, I continue to think that these little pulses of rain that we've gotten every now and again across the lower Ohio Valley into the Tennessee Valley, very critical to preventing river levels from getting extremely low like they were in 22-23. They're still forecasted to be pretty low ahead, but maybe at least keeping us from worst case scenario, even with the more extended drier stretches on the way. In this time frame, better rainfall potential across parts of the upper Midwest. This type of a pattern, the warmer, the drier pattern between our fronts, is being driven by our weak global winds. Much lower than normal global winds continue to be expected ahead. That's a strong La Nina-like background state. And again, I think that's just ultimately what's driving the warmer and the drier pattern as we get past the front. However, this has been a change over the weekend. Starting to see this Typhoon, how long, if I'm saying that correctly, Typhoon how long, expected to recurve east of Japan as we go throughout this week. It's also expected to get into Super Typhoon territory, Category 4 Typhoon, curving east of Japan at 130 to 150 mile per hour. Why is that important? Well, that impacts the jet stream. When we get these recurving typhoons, it tends to support a stronger cold front down the road. Based off of the indications, this likely interacts with the jet stream by Friday or Saturday. 6 to 10 days after that, we could expect to have a stronger cold front. And so while certainly the forecast remains that we're going to warm back up above normal, the east is going to get drier again, I do see this signal in here, and I think that it can lead to a stronger cold front again between the 17th and the 19th of the month. And this AIFS ensemble is seeing that signal in here. This is by the 18th into the 19th. It's already trying to see some colder than normal temperatures returning to the forecast here by the following weekend. And I think that's notable because the ensemble data tends to underdo these cold fronts in the extended range. I would imagine that this region in here can trend colder as we roll things forward over the next several days. I think that the end of the week 2 time frame can end on a colder note across the northern and the eastern tier of the United States. Traditionally speaking, model data underdoes the intensity of these fronts associated with the typhoon recurves. And so we drew a map up this morning. Here's the area that I would monitor if you're highlighted or shaded in the blue color for a shot of colder air between the 17th and probably lingering out through the 21st. I don't think this is a front that is in and out in a day. I think there could be 3-4 days of some colder than normal temperatures. Probably will need to monitor as we get a little bit closer of a more widespread frost and freeze threat across the Midwest Ohio Valley and out towards the East Coast of the United States. And so certainly one to keep an eye on. I think this one could pack a little bit more of a punch even than the one that's going to be in the short term for the eastern third of the country. So something to watch out into the extended range. Would watch for some model data trending colder as we get a little bit closer. And you can see the European model here trying to see a very powerful cold front as well. I will also say with this type of a signal, and I don't think it's off the table, number one, there could be severe storms out ahead of this front. Would not shock me around this time frame between the 17th and the 19th, especially across parts of the Great Lakes, Midwest, and the Ohio Valley. I'd keep an eye maybe on this area in here for some kind of a severe weather threat. And then behind it, again, frost and freeze potential. Could we even see the season's first chance of snow across parts of the upper Midwest? I don't think it's 100% off the table. I don't think it's a high chance, but I think it's something worth watching as we roll things forward. You can certainly see where the area that's going to be more active will be across the Great Lakes and into the northeast part of the United States, this region in here, likely where the better moisture opportunities will come between the 15th and the 20th of the month associated with that storm system and cold front, probably a little bit drier back out here into the western plains. One more note before we go. Beyond this cold front, I do still see signals that the pattern warms back up. That's been the theme. When we get these cold fronts, they don't last super long. They're not a full-on pattern change. Can we get 3 to 5 days of colder temperatures? I don't think that's off the table, but I do think the pattern goes back to warmer as we head into the last 10 days of October, though I will watch right before Halloween. The North Pacific would indicate a stronger front here leading up to Halloween. And so go back warmer for maybe a week. And then I do think that there's the potential for another strong cold front in here right around Halloween. I will say, some of these La Nina years have had a history of producing strong cold fronts and even severe weather opportunities right around Halloween. I don't think that's off the table as we get into late this month. Something to keep an eye on as we trend the forecast ahead. Guys, that's all I have for today's forecast. If you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Have a great rest of your day.